Hello, greetings from Hyderabad. Today's session focuses on Sitecore Exam Cloud Content SDK presented by Jaya and hosted by Vishal and Yamini. Over to you, Jaya.
Thank you, Yamini. Thank you, Vishal. So I'm going to share my screen. Yeah. First of all, good evening, everyone. And today we are going to learn something new, which is right now into the beta phase, into the Sitecore world, XM Cloud world. So that is Sitecore Content SDK. So before we start, let's see what we are going to learn today. So through this presentation, we are going to learn like what exactly is Content SDK, what are its features, why we need this SDK, what is architecture, and what is the prerequisite you need when you are going to create an app using this Content SDK, and how you can going to connect to your local not local XM Cloud instance because it is dedicatedly for that. And then we'll see a demo how we can create a app locally. And then at end we will see what's the basic difference, why traditional SDK was differ, content SDK is differ from traditional SDK, and what are the important commands you need to keep in mind. So this is the agenda for today, and this is about me. Like, I'm working in EPAM system as a lead software engineer, and I'm XM Cloud certified, and I have 10 plus years of experience in Sitecore tech stack as well as in Microsoft technologies. And currently, I'm working in Sitecore Search and XM Cloud. Yeah, so let's get started with that. Like recently in Sugon, Europe, Sitecore has launched another product which is not just announced the beta release of Content SDK, which is actually going to replace the existing JSS SDK for XM Cloud. And why it was why it is just in a beta release, so because they have given this as a, it is just an open source where you can also contribute while taking this as a pull request, and until it is not a stable release we can explore and give our comments on that, any reviews, any feature requests like that. So as it is under open source Apache 2.0 license, and the current release version as per this presentation, I have covered all the new changes which was introduced last week on 0.2.0. So in this presentation you will find all the latest one, the changes included. And for if you wanted to contribute something and learn, explore or take a starter app sample, you can go to this link and you can start working on this and exploring. So reset changes, what you, if you wanted to learn something, like if you already explored 0.0.1.0, you can work on 0.2.0 and you can review the change log always by going through this Content SDK release document. So after this presentation, I will share these slides where all these relative links are there. So why actually when we talk about the Sitecore XM Cloud, so already we were working with the XM Cloud in headless way. So why exactly we require a new SDK in XM Cloud tech stack? Because XM Cloud is still a buzzword into the Sitecore world. So again, now there is a confusion or questions I have seen over the Slack channels, like again we need to adjust or learn something new. So for that, just I wanted to explain the features, why it actually requires. So it's not exactly the replacement of Sitecore JSS. It's only a separation. When XM Cloud came, we used to work with the headless with the Sitecore JSS SDK, which was having lot of features which right now for in context of XM Cloud not needed. So for that purpose there is a new SDK, and now we will see why, how much improvement this new SDK will provide to the XM Cloud apps which we are exploring. So this XM Cloud SDK, as we know in XM Cloud or now, we most of the features like visual editing features are shifted to the page builder. Now we are not in coming few feature releases. Sitecore has announced that there will be a no support for experience editor. So this SDK also focus most of the things towards the page builder. So in terms of visual editing and testing, it is a inbuilt support is provided within this SDK where your XM Cloud pages option is enabled by default into the SDK utilities. And as we know, XM Cloud, the starter template always it works with the Next.js. So this is also the same way you can work with the Next.js, primarily focus on Next.js starter template even in the content SDK. And in XM Cloud, we know that it is a composable tech stack. So here we have the option of easy integration without any coding, the products like personalization, and you can do your component A by B testing. These integrations are very easy in this. And as we know, Sitecore always works with the multi-site and multilingual, so that inbuilt supports is here also we can work. And mostly it is focused on GraphQL utilities because it has the inbuilt common queries where we are going to fetch content, presentations, site information, dictionary keys. So these are inbuilt utilities are already in this SDK is provided. And Next.js framework specific features are also provided like locally based internationalized that already we know in JSS SDK was also it was there, but it is primarily for this Next.js based framework. And as we know in Next.js, these two kinds of rendering method supports like server-side rendering and static site generation. So these two rendering method supports as well into this Next.js SDK, this content SDK. And even the analytics and event tracking support out of box Sitecore has given us in through this SDK. And why actually we require I was talking. So XM Cloud already works well with this JSS SDK, then why suddenly a shift we need? So this is the main reason behind that. In that like XP, XM in Sitecore JSS SDK, there was the option which supports XP, XM, all the platforms. And in content, this XM Cloud is a separate composable tech stack. So to remove all the feature which was relevant for this XPXM, there is a separation for this SDK. Only relevant code which required for XM Cloud is kept here. What it will what it will benefit us as a developer, it will reduce the size of dependent files and our file system become much lesser and which improve the performance. And as I said earlier, this SDK is dedicated to only XM Cloud, which give us a more cleaner approach in the project file structure as well, which we are going to explore further. And the integration part also is very easy in this case that you will see in the coming slides. So when once it comes like something new we learn, then we learn about the features and architecture and how it internally works. So as you can see, the architecture of this diagram, this content SDK, how it relate and coordinate. So in XM Cloud, we all know that it is a experience edge is the delivery platform mainly. In content SDK, what happens as we are working in a headless approach, our front end apps only coordinates with XM Cloud with the experience edge endpoint on for the published or live content. And how it reads, so is experience edge is a delivery platform here which reads the layout, dictionary, site, and item data using the GraphQL queries, which I already explained. It is a inbuilt in SDK, so that you don't have to do if you are going to use the starter template. These all things are inbuilt. Once only you have to run few commands, and your site will be ready to use the XM Cloud data directly. And in headless, this part is similar with the Sitecore JSS SDK, as there also this experience means whichever app in Next.js, it is a three types of rendering we support, right? Static site generation, server side rendering, and client side rendering. And all these things, we can send the data. This GraphQL always provide us the data into the JSON format. So wherever like Next.js app reads this JSON formatted data and serve to the client browser. And here in XM Cloud, always the media is served through the edge.cloud.io URL. So directly it fetch from the experience edge and delivered to the client browser. So most important thing to understand here is that you see the architecture here only from experience endpoint, XM Cloud endpoint. Only experience edge is the important what we need to understand, because it works totally in a headless way. So any front end app you are going to work like third party app APIs which supports the JSON format data or REST APIs, you can connect your app to XM Cloud and using this SDK as well. So primarily we are focusing on Next.js now. So this GraphQL queries or the support in headless architecture we use in traditional way the JSS, the layout service API and GraphQL both. But here we have only the GraphQL option because internally the layout data is configured in such a way in utility classes that you can fetch easily the content from Sitecore XM Cloud. And the Next.js app is having all the in features which our XM Cloud projects needs to deliver. So it has all the dedicated config files or environment variables where you can connect your app. So mostly this architecture explains that it is just interacting with your front end app. There is no involvement of XM Cloud here, the authoring thing. Only this edge REST delivery platform is connected. I hope this is clear. So before, like now, as we see the feature and architecture of this, and if we need to start, and I want to I want to create an app using a content SDK. What are the prerequisite required? This slides will explain that one. So as we know, the XM Cloud is a the SaaS based product, and we need a license for that. And if you or your organization is having a partner, or you're having a Sitecore sandbox for that XM Cloud sandbox, then you can work easily with that. But before that, if you don't have, we need access to XM Cloud instance, as well as we need one environment created at least like dev, mostly when we start working on that, and at least one site in it. So there is a when you go to the XM Cloud login portal, you can create an app and you and in one environment and one site in it. And it supports like we need operating system where the Node.js supported, and the and always Sitecore recommendation used to use the Node.js, which is the latest like most recent long-term support version. So see these things if you are having in your system, and the Visual Studio Code obviously because it's the front end IDE which most of us use, and the relevant extensions like for linting or pretty print like that. It depends on your use case and your familiarity with your page builder, content editor, and components as terms of XM Cloud. So, how you're going to, so suppose I have all these prerequisites, and then how we are going to start working. So here, if you're having a Sitecore instance and you have other site created already, just you need to create a folder in your system, and under that folder just give any name. Okay, for example I will show you. I have given a name like content SDK app, and you have to run this command. What this command actually do? So when we used to work in Sitecore JSS, it was Sitecore content, Sitecore JSS CLI, and Sitecore JSS. Right now this portion is only got changed, Sitecore content SDK instead of Sitecore content JSS CLI. So any of the node package manager you can use, and then at the rate Sitecore content SDK. This is the main SDK, and this is the initializer command. And we are going to use the Next.js. So once we run this command, you will get few questions. So in terms of content SDK, now these questions also got reduced. If you have worked in earlier version, there were subsequent questions it asked, which at the end generate sc.js config file. So now when I'm showing you the screenshot, later I will show you the demo as well. So under this path, I have just run this command, which is like initialization for an app. Once we hit this enter, it will ask you where would you like a new app created. As of now, I'm going to use the default in my demo as well, but you can specify the path, and then it will start initializing this Next.js app. And this option, how would like to pre-render your application, it depends on your use case. You want to go with the SSG or server-side rendering. And if you want to avoid these steps as well, there is a parameters you can pass into these commands. So it will avoid you to ask the next question. It will take as the parameter you provided or by default. So in my coming slides, that option also I have again. So once you run this command, after that, you no need to do anything after these two questions, and you will see the site is created. And by default, right now under the Next.js folder, this whole source code will be created. I will show you this is the file system as soon as, and the creation is also very fast. You will see in a demo. Now, locally, when you go to that app, you will see this is a file structure, and which is very similar to the Sitecore JS's, the traditional one. Only few highlighted one you can see. These are the new files got added into the 0.2.0 release. Initially, it was having only one environment file. In the coming last 2 weeks back, what they released done in that these two files got added. Like you can work with your container locally. If you're working with a container, that time you can use this, or if you're working with the XM Cloud remote instance, you can work on. You can see this example file. I will show you in the next slide. And this CLI config.ts file, this is the newly added where all the content SDK commands, like content SDK commands, which we required for the development, is we can configure here, and it is provided by default this file. And sitecore.config.ts file, this is the file which replaced the earlier configuration config.ts. I will show you in the differences. This file now is handling all the custom configuration you are going to give, or this is a central point of configuration, where in every file, if you want to import some configuration, you have to just import this file, and you are okay to go. So it has reduced the size of this environment.local file as of now, because in this only the minimal required uh, variables are there which you require to connect to your app. So this file is the central point for all your configuration things. And for this, how you can use that one, there is a sample example file you can open and see like how you can customize and use this file. And at the time of build, there is a build artifacts get generated. That time this dot sitecore folder get generated. Under this there is a generate that metadata JSN and generate uh, JSN is there. I will show you in the next slide. These two folders at the time of builds it get generated, which has replaced the config.jsn file. And now like how we are going, suppose I have shown you here, just we have created this app. Now how this, as in locally this app is not having any content until and unless we'll not connect to the XM Cloud, because it works with the XM Cloud live data or your authoring or view. So that we are going to see now. So you after that the app is created. Now we want to connect to the XM Cloud instance. For that purpose, so this already I explained the new files. Now we are going to see how we are going to connect to XM Cloud instance. For to connect to the XM Cloud instance, I as I told, we dot environment dot local you have seen in my screenshot is created, this one. So this one is the duplicate. I just need to duplicate this file and replace the variable which I'm going to explain now. So for this, just dot environment dot remote dot example file, we have to rename it to dot environment, because this the sample file always is recommended to keep as it is. Just we have to keep create a new copy. That usually we all now also we do with our traditional approach. So after that, you have to, if you are familiar with XM Cloud, that is the basic need. You have to go to your deploy portal and check your environment. Inside of that, there is a project, and under that project, there will be several tabs which you can go through my recent this blog post where I have explained the key tabs. Using that tab, you have to just get these information like your Sitecore Edge context ID, your site name. That's it. Because you already created a demo app in your XM Cloud, you just need these variables from these tabs. So if you are familiar, you already know where to get this one. Or if you are not, you can check my blog post for that. So these are the variables we need to connect our app to our XM Cloud instance. So Sitecore Edge Context ID, nothing but it's a in edge delivery platform. When we work with the preview or live, there will be a different context. Based on that, we get the data into the our delivery platform, or what users see is a live data. So based on that, this context is divided. So this context is like when we used to work with the site core, we always work with the site core context, right? So this context is shifted to now delivery platform, where what live content is there in edge, it will fetch based on this context ID. So environment file, as I have shown you here, these examples of environment files. So I just wanted to show how a small environment file in Content SDK is. So this is the newly created app SDK, that environment file where you see there is only JSS editing secret, next public sitecore site name, next public default language, edge context ID is there, and these are locally we don't need it, but it's there. Only this much is the file, number of lines is there. And even for debugging purpose, they have enhanced a lot, particularly like what are the after enabling this, what are the things you can get. We can dig deeper into the documentation. I will provide the links for that. So as of now, we just need a next site name, and language is by default English, and edge context ID, and this both. So this is just a fallback. They if nothing is provided here, the fallback will be used, and already the explanation is given. So this is much cleaner as the file environment file, and it has appropriate comments as well. And I will show you the traditional JSS environment file as well, so that it will be clear like what is new there. So the app which I created, I have put the content into the Sitecore XM Cloud instance. This one I cannot show you in demo, but I will show you this exact content will be showing into the new uh, app which we are going to create. And this one this is a XM Cloud instance where I have taken the screenshot. I have added this data already. And when we run this app, what we locally created, it will show you the content is coming from XM Cloud instance. So this message I have deliberately put so that I can show it. Yeah, it is coming from XM Cloud instance. So live data we are working here. And now it's time for demo. So let me share my screen again so that I can show you the demo part. So already I'm into a terminal, and I have created this folder content SDK demo. So where I'm going to run the initializer command first. Once I hit enter, it will ask me the few questions which I have shown you the screenshot. Let's wait for a minute. Initializer will ask. So this is the where would you like to, so as of now I'm going to use, so this Next.js is a default path for that. So I'm going to press enter. Now it is asking me which pre-render your application. So I'm going with SSG, and that's it. And within a few seconds, you will see a JSS SDK app is created. And these commands in my slides, I have shown how we can customize. So you even in this, you have to just pass the parameter what pre-rendered application you wanted to give, and it will work. Behind the scene, this initializer will initialize and create our repo, which we are going to see in, and it's pretty fast. Until this generate, we can go. Let's wait for a few minutes and see how it works. So right now I have not installed the content SDK CLI globally even. I just created a folder and I'm running this command. So usually when we work with the development systems, we it's preferred like we should install the content SDK CLI globally so that it helps in development. It provides all the commands or functionality relevant to that. So content SDK CLI, once the project will get created, in that we can run, because I don't want to run it globally. The other applications are also there. I think I have created so many apps, so maybe. So meanwhile, until it gives, so let me share again the screen. I'm switching back the screen again because until it runs. This is the traditional file which I was discussing, like how okay, sorry, once I shifted the screen and the app is created. So let me show you that one first, and then we'll discuss the file system. So you guys can see that it's instantly generated the site here. So it's saying you see, it took very less time, and the JSS Next.js is ready now. And we can easily use this for that purpose. Already, I have added a .environment file here where I have described I have already described in the slide, right, context ID, and that for the security reasons I cannot show here what I added. But this is the file system it generated. In file system, this is the file it generated, this is the app, and we can just run. So as if you have done any changes, you have to run npm install. As of now I haven't done any dependency changes, so I am just running npm run and start, and it will start the app, and already environment variables are defined, so it will fetch the content which I described. And you can see here, while generating the artifacts, it is saying dot sitecore metadata dot jsn and site dot jsn is generated. Every time we do a build, it will say. So these are the two things which I have shown. I will go through the file system now once this app is ready to. So our app is start. Once we click here, let me know if you can see my screen for where the app is loading. It's
Jaya, no, we are seeing the
okay.
terminal only.
Okay, let me share again the screen. You can see the screen now where the content is coming from XM Cloud
Yep,
is visible. Yeah.
yep,
So
yep.
this is it is coming from terminal. Just I run npm run and start, and it is visible. This content is coming from XM Cloud, and I can show you by changing that screen. Only XM Cloud one I cannot show, but I will change the content here. Content change, and you will see instant reflection. Once I save in XM Cloud in another window and I refresh this, and you will see. One second. This saved. You see, this content is coming from a XM Cloud instance. So immediately, like we working with the live data. So what happened here? How the approach of SDK is like once you create a component and you deploy it, is you are working in your local host, it is inbuilt support is there for page builder. You don't have to do any configuration for experience editor related like Chrome configuration. Everything they have removed into the new SDK. And here in traditional JSS, they already in layout service, we send our whole page data. Then we develop the components and it work like that. But here they change the approach. Like in XM Cloud, how our content authors are working, like we don't know what will be the page structure. It is dedicated to in the on the when we work in the Next.js components, what components we are defining, it is adjusted in such a manner that like when our full page is configured, the XM Cloud that SDK knows that one. So it is not basically on the layout surface only. It is on the component based, and each of the component what you're going to create here is having a particular mapping which you have to give, and the data is on the component is always associated with the data template you define. Suppose this is also one of the component like default component, which is here under src. Under components we have a component called title or rich text, I guess. Yeah.
Can you please
So
share
this
the file structure? Sorry to interrupt, Jaya.
yeah, sure, I'm going to share the file structure now. So now I'm going to share the Visual Studio where we are going to see the rest of the things. So you're seeing now Visual Studio.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the file system it generated when I have created the app, and we are going to see that what I was explaining. So here you can see already the file is generated, and in this I was talking about this config file. I hope this is visible. So this is a sample example file, and this is the empty file which you can define according to your way. And wherever you are going to use these configurations, you just need to import this one. So that's why it is export default is there. And sample file is like how we can use it that in the environment specific like Sitecore context ID, how it process that one is there like edge context ID, the public API key, which is not relevant for now. This one site name and default language. For us, this is only two things is required what I have given into the environment file. So this is the important file here which have all the configuration, and this is related to the SDK. You can see here like this content SDK CLI, all the custom commands, or if you want to have some custom commands here, the example is there given into the documentation from the site code, like you can add here. So as of now we have seen we have generated two things like generate sites and generate metadata, these two here in enabled, and this is only two things got created here. So one is having all your CLI utility SDKs related dependencies, and other is having your site information, which generate at the runtime only when we build. Why I'm going from bottom, because these are the important. Other things maybe package.jsn, and these are existing one. In this there is no change, only the import functionality if you are going to add the new file is there. So right now, as I explained, environment.remote.example, I have changed. Only I copied into dot environment local, and I have just this one is also not needed as it is written only. This is just an optional parameter here because you don't need to do any extra configuration for page builder editing. Only I have given the what XMC demo I have created into the my XM Cloud, that site name and the default language and this context ID. And rest things by default is it will take the values when we do npm run. Under src I have seen the changes under the components. So we have used this rich text component where the content was coming into the app. In this, I have seen the change, like they are using the syntax like JSS rich text. So they have included the JSS syntax into the components. So now I think when we create a new component, it is bound to the data source which we are going to provide. For that, the configuration point of view, you don't have to do. Just you have to create a rendering and do the mapping here, and just when you do the props, it will fetch you the data which is into the data source. It is designed in such a manner. The important file to see here is this syntax change. I wanted to say that JSX syntax I have seen for all the inbuilt components, like rich text or simple line text they are going to use, and that examples are there in these files. Like inbuilt by default out of box which components are there, you can see that one, and that will give you a hint how you can create your own components. And while you are creating the component, scaffold command is there which will generate a particular component file inside of that. One thing they have changed here is that in a traditional SDK we need to register into a component map file, but here you have to manually register. So it is a more developers is having more control over that. So this component props, this component.map.ts file is there where you have to do the mapping of all your components. Suppose you have created a new component, so it will be the name you provide into the Sitecore, and it will be a name which is a component. So basically, we keep as per the recommendation the same file name. What rendering we create in XM Cloud, the same rendering we provide here. So this mapping in traditional JSS was automatically. Whenever you create a component, it was registered automatically in component builder. But here they introduce a new file component.map.ts, and where you have to do manually. This was the one important change I noticed because we are going to work with the new components. And under SRC folder also, there were lot of files which generated under the temp folder at the time of build, that they have replaced it now. And under utilities, this utilities class is mainly for GraphQL things. And defaulters, this is generated by that file is different again. And now we will see this folder. We already saw that one, the files. So this is about the demo. Now I'm moving back to my presentation. Yeah. So I hope by seeing the demo, what I said is clear. And by now my few slides, what I speak, it is explaining basically the same thing. So as I compared with this Sitecore JSS SDK, this file you can see, this is a traditional JSS SDK environment file where you see this public URL. This is also now absolute. This is optional. And API key and API host we don't need, because internally when we see our application, it is just calling edge.sitecrow.io, and where just we are passing the context ID and the site name, and it is giving you the content internally, background behind the scene. So this was one screenshot. This is the one part of this JSS SDK environment file. This is the, and I'm going to show you that this is the next file. So in my earlier slide, this was just a single page environment file which is less and clean. And in JSS SDK, it is see two screenshots I have taken this, as this file was bigger. And this all the highlighted ones that now not needed. In 0.2.0, they have removed the GraphQL endpoint as well. The site name, they have removed it. And GraphQL services retries it. This also removed this fetch with, because by default is dealing with the GraphQL. This is also removed and shifted into a utility TS. So the previous file for the content SDK look much cleaner and concise. Now I have already explained almost all the differences by showing the demo, but this is also a gist, just not to make you much more. I just give you the important main files which I already explained. Like these variables now got replaced with this next. Just we have next is added, next underscore public is added. Already I explained this component builder where the component map.ts is introduced, and this in the my introduction itself I told it is dedicatedly to content SDK. For in traditional SDK, there were script templates folder which were containing the template JSs used for scaffolding components. But now we have a central configuration file which is sitecore.cli.config.ts, which I shown you into the demo. Now we have like previously generated .metadata ts script was there, which metadata.jsn was generating, but now we have a generate metadata function instead of this metadata.js file under this sitecore.config.cli. So which will execute the CLI command. So inside of the package.jsn, there are a lot of CLI commands are there. Among them, one is sitecore.tools.build, which will generate the artifacts at the build time. And under the src lib page props.ts type, that it was exposing the sitecore page props when we were taking any content from the sitecore page properties component, right? We can bind this. So now this is shifted to sitecore.content sdk nextjs package, and now wherever we are going to use this page props, we have to import this one. And instead of config.sites, now site.jsn was there, which was generated into the .sitecore folder. Public URL property is now absolute, which was there earlier. And scripts config, which contains the plugin used to generate the config folder at the runtime. I have shown you in src temp folder. Now it is much cleaner because everything is dealt by the sitecore.config.ts file. So no longer these folders will get generated. src under scripts, there will be a config folder, and which is not going to generate now. And as it does not have like support of experience editor was there, but now in SDK we don't need that one. And so basically it support primarily for page builder, and for that we don't need any extra configuration. And these all services like GraphQL factory, dictionary services, layout services, graph editing, these all are now represented just a single file like Sitecore client. There is only one object, Sitecore client data fetching API. These all operation will be done by a single class, that is Sitecore client class, which unified all the data logic. So now if you compare the size and performance of the SDK, it is much more enhanced. And I have went through all the documentation they have provided, like in migration or upgrade guide, that is very clear, especially the migration guide where we need to migrate from JSS to SDK. It's very clear. If you go through, you will understand each and everything. So few important commands which I feel is very important when we work with this is here. We have seen that everything works on this SDK is a CLI. As it was a JSS CLI, now it is a SDK CLI. So either you can install it to the globally better because it is recommended, and so that whenever in development time you need any command, it will work easily. So this npm install -g @sitecode or content SDK CLI is this command is to install this SDK globally. And this has all the several commands which give you the commands which can interact with your SDK apps. And this, after you install this one, you will get the you can run this command tools which will display you all the available commands under this SDK CLI. And the Sitecore tool version also you can know like latest for this what is there. So as of now 0.2.0 is there, which supports the next React no, so Next.js 15 and React 19. And then this npx, this command we already run for creating an app. The single command is enough to run the create an app. And this I was talking about, like if you want, there is an option of adding the parameter if you don't want that, it should ask you the next question. So directly if you run this command, it is already saying that SSR is my preferred render method, and it will work accordingly. And at last we run the npm install if we change any dependency. As of now I haven't done the change, so I just run npm run start and it start working on my local host 3000. And Sitecore tools project component scaffold my component. This is the command for creating a newly created for adding any new component. And after creating this, keep in mind you have to register into component map.ts file. Yeah. So I think I'm done. This is a few of the references which are very important to if you're going to explore this one. And it is much clear. I would say that migration guide is much more clear than the other getting started guide. But these the links which I referred is all I have gone through, and I found that it is useful if you are going to explore this one. So yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for attending this and giving time and attending this session. I hope this will help and enhance your knowledge if you're going to explore this one.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. That was very good presentation and a cleaner and much faster approach to develop with XM Cloud. And did get to know a few things like, yeah, we need to register the component again. So that is also a good thing because generally we forget that, okay, it's already registering automatically. So I think I learned a very good new things today. So that's really great presentation. Any questions,
Yes.
folks? You can ask now.
Yeah, sure.
Any questions you can put in the chat or if you can feel free to ask as well. Okay, if no questions, then we'll end the session here today. And thank you so much, Jaya. It was really
Yeah.
wonderful presentation. And see you guys in the next session. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.